One today. Go ahead.
Thanks,
And a
Matt.
secretary.
So on the president's gun announcement, he announced that he's going to ask Congress to take action to repeal gun manufacturers' liability protections.
Yes.
That had been a day one promise of his. When should we expect to see that text sent to the Hill? And if it was a priority, if it is as big a priority as he said it was for him just a few minutes ago, how much effort is the president willing to put into gun control right now when so much of the administration's focus right now is on the infrastructure plan?
Well, first, let me say that there has been legislation introduced in past Congresses, and we certainly hope, and he's calling for members to reintroduce legislation on gun liabilities for manufacturers. It is an issue that he talked about on the campaign trail, and he continues to believe that addressing that, holding manufacturers to the same account as other industries, is pivotal in keeping our communities safe, keeping our families safe, and addressing the threat of gun violence across the country. So what he is calling for is for the introduction of legislation, of which there has been past versions. I will say that this has been an issue that the president has been working on for decades throughout his career. He helped pass the Brady Bill. He helped ban assault weapons back in the 90s. He believes that taking additional steps on background checks, that putting in place an assault weapons ban again, are pivotal to keeping our country safe. He strongly supports the background check bills, the two that have passed the House. It is imperative for any president to walk and chew gum at the same time, to continue to push for, to advocate for, to use the bully pulpit of the Rose Garden to push forward a range of agenda items, and he certainly will continue to do that on putting in place common sense gun safety measures.
A couple of weeks ago, in a press conference, the president sort of said, sequencing is important here, but essentially acknowledging that maybe the president can walk and chew gum, maybe Congress can't, and the president decided to put infrastructure before gun control, before climate change, before some of these other issues. Why are guns not going before infrastructure?
Well, Congress plays the role, the Senate and the House, in moving legislation forward. And at any given time, there are multiple pieces of legislation moving their way through committees, moving their way through the House, moving their way to the Senate. There are two background check bills that have passed the House that can move to the Senate. He certainly is an advocate for those, while at the same time being an advocate for moving forward on the American Jobs Plan.
And then finally, just a different topic on Afghanistan. Should we expect to hear from the president before May 1 about what he will do with American troops still there? I mean, it seems they're going to stay there beyond the sort of time is running out for an ordered withdrawal for troops still there. Right now, is that an accurate assessment that there will be troops there on May 2nd? And then in terms of what is the president's message to the American people? Why is it in their interest for their troops to be serving in harm's way overseas beyond this month?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of the president's decision and announcement. I expect you will hear from him before May 1st. He has been consistent and clear that it is operationally challenging to get troops out by May 1, which is not a deadline he put in place. It is a timeline put in place by the prior administration. And there are certainly conditions on the ground, including efforts on diplomacy, efforts to negotiate with the Taliban, that have been underway for the last several weeks. But you will certainly hear from him, and once you do, we can absolutely have a conversation about where we go from here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Given the narrow majorities in the House and the Senate right now, does the president think enacting universal background checks this year is doable?
I think the president is going to leave the analysis of what's viable and doable to all of you and people on the outside. And certainly he's not vote counting himself, but he is also clear-eyed about the challenges in moving forward with legislation with the current makeup of the Senate. He is going to continue to advocate for that, as he did just today, just this morning in the Rose Garden, surrounded by some of the bravest and most courageous advocates for gun safety legislation in the country. But he also is not going to wait. And that's why he took action on, announced several steps that can be taken in the form of executive actions, in the form of guidance, and in the form of nominating someone to lead the ATF, because he feels you can't wait, and he's going to use the power of his presidency to take steps forward.
Because this gets a little bit of what Zeke was getting at. I mean, we have a jobs cabinet now. We have face-to-face and Zoom meetings ongoing with Republicans and Democrats about infrastructure. Should we anticipate a gun control cabinet or meetings with Republicans about this issue?
I certainly would anticipate the president will raise this issue in a range of conversations he has with members of Congress. This obviously is slightly different given the role of the Attorney General in measures on gun safety, and as is evidenced by the fact that he was present there today. So it's a bit different from a jobs cabinet, but I can assure you for members where this is appropriate, where it's an appropriate role for them to play, for members of the administration in the White House and otherwise, to communicate with members of Congress, that will certainly continue to be at the top of our list.
Two other